All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL betting video. Going to be breaking down the Thursday night show here between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, guys, this game is expected to be a little bit ugly, all right? It's a 13-point spread in favor of the Patriots winning and kind of a low game total, only 43 total points. On top of that, we have a lot of players that are injured, really for both squads. So the Patriots are going to be without Stevenson and Booty, so two starters for them. I think Henderson obviously looked really good last week, and Terrell Jennings, the other running back for the Patriots, it's also out. So we're expecting a pretty Henderson-heavy type game here. And then the replacement for Keyshawn Booty last week actually ended up being Matt Collins, so he might be someone that we look at here as well. And then for the Jets, they are banged up receiver-wise. Garrett Wilson is out, and we kind of got to figure out what to do in the replacement of him, which kind of receivers we're going to be targeting. But first, let's see if we're getting any plus EV bets here for this game in general, just for the game. Nothing really. If you want to bet on the under 42.5 there on ESPN at plus 100, not a terrible route to go. I don't mind that. It really just depends on which version of Justin Fields we're going to get. And so kind of a weird way to go about just betting on this game. It's just kind of betting on Justin Fields to either continue to play terrible, and then the odds that we're getting with all the lines that we're getting are correct, or bet on him to have one of the few really good games that he's played. I don't mind either option, honestly. I know Garrett Wilson's not there, and that's not going to help him, but maybe Justin Fields ends up playing a good game. The game total really crushes the over. Maybe it ends up being 44.5 should actually end up being the game total. Or you'll see some of the lines that we get into prop betting wise, they're a little bit too low. They're vastly too low if Justin Fields actually ends up playing well, which is a big question mark. We could actually end up seeing Tyrod Taylor take over in the second half if Justin Fields continues to look as bad as he has. All right, so I mentioned that Garrett Wilson is going to be out, and I think the player that's actually going to benefit the most should be Isaiah Williams. He is obviously a younger receiver for them. Last week, guys, he ended up playing 45% of the snaps. Now, it is worth calling out that John Mechie, kind of a recently acquired receiver for them, only played 16% of the snaps, and A.D. Mitchell did not play at all. Obviously, A.D. Mitchell, the former Colts receiver, we'll see if he ends up being active. If he is active, I would imagine he's going to play a decent amount, but they are clearly trying to get looks at some younger receivers, and so it would make sense for the former Illinois receiver to get some looks. He made a big splash play on special teams last week, had 31 yards against Cincinnati guys, ended up getting a decent amount of catches in that game as well, 3 on 4 targets. And so given the game script of this game, I like it. I like the overs, but given the quarterback play that we've seen, that is what is going to make every single Jets over kind of ugly, because the quarterback play has just been bad. Now, maybe a route that you could end up going is kind of the best bet for him, which would be him to get over 8.5 for his longest reception. We see Underdog has a 9.5. The average sportsbook line at 9.5 as well. I kind of would say any bet of those, they all kind of go hand in hand. So if you want to just end up on that one instead, you could certainly do that there as well. Now, the receiver that's going to probably played the most is going to be Aaron Smith here. He just hasn't really been targeted at all. He's just been on the field a bunch. And so you would kind of expect that, again, in a 13-point spread where they're going to have to throw the football bunch, like this should be a very easy bet for us to get to. Like he had 68% of the snaps last week. He has consistently done that throughout the season in certain, in spots like this. So like that ends up being a very low line for him. Like it should be. Do need to mention Tyler Johnson as well, who's a veteran at this point. I've always liked the talent of Tyler Johnson. He's a very good bench guy to have. His lines are all kind of pretty high, but he's talented. It doesn't really make sense for him to get a lot of snaps in this game. Like you would give Mitchell his snaps, I would think, if Mitchell is going to be ready to go, but we're not getting any bets for him because he might end up being inactive. And so until we figure out what's going to happen with Mitchell, I don't really want to give any bets on Tyler Johnson. But again, the issue with any bet that I give you guys for the Jets is Justin Fields is just not good. And so let's talk about Justin Fields and the bets that we're getting for him. So we look at all the bets that we're getting for Justin Fields, and it's egregious, right, guys? 137.5 passing yards for an NFL quarterback against a defense who, they kind of give up a lot of receptions, at least, and a lot of production to opposing tight ends. Like, that's just crazy to me. But, like, this kind of brings up what you could end up doing with Fields, where if you want to bet on him to have a good passing day, in a game that's, again, they're going to be 13-point dogs. I could see getting to him over, like, just, massively going over his over by 50 yards or something like that. I don't hate that idea. It's not something I expect to happen because, again, I've seen him play on film, but it's not a terrible idea. Like, that would probably be the most appropriate approach to go with for this slate. I don't really want to bet on his over rush yards. I don't want to bet on his anytime touchdown or pass touchdowns as well. Again, just, it's ugly. I kind of expect him to get replaced at half, again, if he continues to play poorly. And if he doesn't, then all of these bets where you're chasing like an increased payout with increased risk, I think that ends up being a decent route to go. And so it's kind of two logics. Either he does play poorly and like you just can't run him out in the second half, and then his unders hit pretty easily, right? Especially his under passing yards. Or he does play well and he's going to crush like his over passing yards. Okay, like both are certainly within their own possibility, and I did kind of want to spell that out for you guys. Another player that is okay, like the player that should add the most passing production or receiving production, is tight end Mason Taylor. His snap should also be pretty darn locked in as well. And so that's why we're going to see all of his lines, pretty darn high, but it's also worth calling out that the Patriots have given up a lot of production to opposing tight ends as well. So they've averaged 6.7 receptions per game over the last 4 games, which is the third most in the league. And so, yes, we're looking at Mason Taylor over 3.5 receptions. He should be able to get over 34.5 receiving yards as well. But again, Justin Fields. And I know it sounds like I'm giving Fields a lot of heat, if you will. But at the start of the season, I did call out that I'm like, it was kind of a hot take at the time, but I thought it was also a very easy take. I'm like, Daniel Jones is a better real life quarterback and fantasy football than Justin Fields. And at the time, people probably thought I was crazy or something like that. I'm like, I just watched the film, guys. That's all I can do. And Daniel Jones is just clearly better than Justin Fields. I don't get the hype. And so it is a little bit of me victory lapping from those takes earlier on the season. And people that watch preseason NFL DFS coverage know where that's coming from. I know not a lot of people are playing preseason NFL DFS where I give those hot takes. I should probably start doing some fantasy football coverage maybe next year so people can avoid landmines like Justin Fields and get on to players like Daniel Jones, which I know I talked about a decent amount. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about Breece Hall. And so getting to Breece Hall, guys, we're getting some interesting lines for him. The best bet that we have on the board is actually him to get under his fantasy score here of 12.5. Again, with fantasy score, it's basically whether or not a player will end up scoring a touchdown. Okay, now with Breece Hall, that could end up being a little bit different because the Patriots do give up a lot of receiving production to opposing running backs, not a lot of rushing production. And so he's someone that maybe could go off receiving the football. And so I see this receiving yards line that we have for him, and I don't mind it. Per game, the Patriots average around 37.5 receiving yards to opposing running backs, third most over the last 4 weeks, and then over the season, fifth most. Now, they actually give up the most receptions to opposing running backs, both over the last 4 weeks and throughout the season. Over the last 4 weeks, they've given up 8 receptions to opposing running backs per game, which is obviously a crazy number. And so you would expect the game plan to be revolving around honestly giving Breece Hall the football, but giving him the football in the passing game, especially given the fact that Garrett Wilson is out. And so this is another one of those like increased payout bets that I don't mind. Obviously increased risk, but I don't mind that. I think we could get there. At the same time, like Isaiah Davis is someone that in a blowout should get a decent amount of run. And like, okay, if Vegas is right about the 13-point spread, like then Davis should be on the field a decent amount. He'll get at least 30% of the work anyways. This should be a very likely bet for it to hit. Again, if Vegas is correct about the game, it ends up being a blowout. 13 points, you definitely start to worry about a blowout. And then at that point, Davis should be able to get a few dump-offs and take those for a decent amount of yardage, regardless of whichever quarterback is in. So this is kind of one of my favorite bets. No bet's going to feel good on this game, like literally any of them. And so this is kind of as good as it can get. But it does suck telling you guys to bet on a player that we're hoping gets 30% of the work. And like the most ideal situation would be he gets 40%. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into the New England Patriots, guys. So just sorting it by the best bets that we were getting for New England. Hunter Henry for under his fantasy score is okay. I do think he's due for a touchdown, though, so that's kind of like the only hesitance I had for that one. But overall, not a terrible bet. 53.2% chance for that one to hit. That's the second best bet that we have on the board for this game. Another one, Demario Douglas to get under his fantasy score of 5.5. Also not a terrible bet. He is someone that actually did not play that many snaps with Keyshawn Boutte out. It actually ended up being Matt Collins that got the most work with him out. So kind of interesting there. That probably will happen again. And again, given the fact that they're going to be 13-point favorites, that should mean there's going to be a limited amount of pass attempts that are just going around. Maybe Demario Douglas splashes another big play like he has done recently in a few games there, but he's not playing that many snaps, so not terrible. Diggs and actually Kyle Williams are both somewhat interesting, and so let's go ahead and pull them up on the PrizePicks board. So guys, Diggs is an interesting player. Like, he's not playing that many snaps total, basically about 50 to like 60% of the snaps per game, but he is playing on a bunch of the passing down plays. And so he has been someone that has been productive in those games, mostly receptions wise. Like, his line for reception should probably be at 4.5. I'd be fine getting to the over there. Although the Jets, the defense is bad now. Prior to the trades, it was a respectable defense for the most part, but now with how obviously they're just tanking, right? And so like Diggs should be able to have a good game, but overall, like, I don't mind the under 12.5 for his fantasy score. Not a bet that I feel like we need to get to as well. And then I do want to mention Kyle Williams. So again, if this game does end up being a blowout, we could see Kyle Williams actually end up playing a little bit more. But he ended up playing 56% of the snaps last week with Keyshawn Boutte out, and he is someone that maybe ends up getting like 65% of the snaps. I doubt it, but maybe. He is a rookie. They want to get him some work. Had 2 targets only in last week's game, so obviously that's not something we like. We do need to talk about Matt Collins, guys. Matt Collins came in and played in the Keyshawn Boutte role and looked good doing it. He actually had 10 targets on the game. 3 weeks ago, had 7 targets. So the one game against Atlanta, who is a tough team to throw the football against, only 2 there. And so I actually think this one for him to get over 2.5 receptions, I'd like, but him to get over 3 receptions is also not a terrible bet. Again, the issue is the spread, right? All right, I don't need to say that again. And then let's go ahead and get into Travion Henderson. So he's going to be in for a bunch of work in this game. I would expect him to be able to get to his over receptions, but they also don't need to throw the football. Okay, so maybe you just end up on him to get over 79.5 receiving yards, but also he is someone that I would maybe want to do the collective bet on for him to get like over, it'd be like 100 total yards, which is kind of crazy, but really it's him that's healthy. Terrell James is out. Stevenson is out, but I do think like De'Aaron Hurst-Johnson, who's going to be the receiver or running back number 2, could end up getting a decent amount of work. He's kind of a bigger back. But I mean, the over and under for Henderson in this game is 17 rush attempts, which is probably right. I actually don't think we're getting any like good spots for Henderson in this game, which is unfortunate. I was hoping that we would. And then we go ahead and get into Drake May, guys. So Drake May, not someone I think we necessarily need to bet on in this game. You know, we look at the bets that we're getting for him, and all the lines just, to me, seem to be correct. If you wanted to bet on him over 240 passing yards, like you could. This is a team where they obviously are going to throw the football against. Like, you can beat them through the air now. I don't mind it. Like, if the game does end up being that blowout, he's going to be the reason why. The game total is low, though, so that's a slight concern. And really, this is kind of a game where it's probably a game where the game plan is don't make many mistakes and you're going to get out there with a win. And so we might just see a run-heavy game, but at the same time, this does feel pretty darn appealing. And so I'm fine getting to that one there as well. And so we go ahead and get into the bet of the day here for this slate, guys. Again, I think these two bets kind of correlate. I don't necessarily like betting on Breece Hall for under his fantasy score, but that is the best bet that's popping up. Again, the bet is just him to not score a touchdown pretty much there. Drake May to get over 240.5 pass yards. I don't mind that. If you guys want to get to Matt Collins for over 3 receptions, you can as well. Again, I think he has a good chance to get to 3 receptions. And then Isaiah Davis. So this is kind of just a bet on the game being a blowout. And really just the Jets choosing to attack the Patriots via where their weakness is, which is giving up a decent amount of receptions to opposing running backs. Obviously, a decent amount of receiving yards then there as well. Again, guys, there's a lot of spots where with Justin Fields, you could like bet his over passing yards by a decent margin. You could also do that with like a receiver like Isaiah Williams, where you're really bumping up his receiving yards. I don't mind that idea. Smith should be someone that gets, his overs as well. It really just depends on Justin Fields. And so I didn't want to load up on too many bets, but I did want to prepare you guys for kind of maybe complete your guys' thoughts for this game about how to go about betting it as well. So that's going to do it for this video, guys. Appreciate you being here. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel as well. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.